Okay, good evening and good afternoon. We are going to continue with the brachot that come before Shema. We will more than likely spend about at least 2 to 3 more classes on the topic. Tonight we have quite a bit to do, Bezrat Hashem. Let's get right to it. Open the first slide. Okay, we're going to start off. I know I don't have the English here. I will translate a couple of phrases I want to deal with first. And an amazing insight that I came across from somebody. I wish I had thought of it. When I see something good like that, I'd like to wish I had said it. Before we start, though, I actually thought about something, thanks to a very conscientious attendee in the class. I want to go back and correct something I said a few weeks back having to do with mincha. And that is, I said that when you go to mincha, always it should be preceded. The Shema should be preceded by Ashrei. However, as was pointed out to me in Pnei Halacha by Rav Melamed, he says that if a person comes into shul and they're already stepping into Shmona Esrei from Mincha, then you could just step into Shmona Esrei and skip Ashrei. Just make sure you say Kishem Hashem, Hashem Svatai Tiftach as an introduction. We'll talk more about those psukim when we get to Shmona Esrei, but that you would be allowed to go straight into Shmona Esrei without having said Ashrei. And I appreciate the heads up on that. Thank you very much. So let's talk about one of these first phrases that's here in bold and red. In the beginning of the bracha, after Baruch Hu, we refer to Hashem. We say Mal'ah haaretz ki nanecha. His entire earth, could be the universe or the earth, is filled with his what? So a kinyan is a possession. Kinyan can also be a creation. In this case, it can be both. So what does it mean that his earth is filled with his creations? So you can say on a very simplistic level, first let's look at the beginning of the pasuk, which we did last week, starting over here. How great are your works, God? Kulam b'chokhma asita. They were all made with wisdom. Mal'ah haaretz kinyanecha. Your earth is filled with your possessions / creations. So I want to read to you as soon as I bring it up here, something it says in Pirkei Avot. Now, for those of you who take Pirkei Avot with me, you know that we did already the topic of Kinei lecha chaver, acquire for yourself a friend. This is much later. This is in the last chapter of Pirkei Avot. It says like this: Chamisha kinyanim kanalo kadosh baruch hu ba'olam. God, I'm using the word acquired, created, fashioned. It could be a whole bunch of possibilities. 5 things in this world. Ve'eluhen, and these are the items. First, Torah. Kinyan echad. One possession, creation is Torah. Shamayim va'aretz, kinyan echad. We refer to Hashem, for example, you know that Friday night, and a couple other places, we talk about konei shamayim va'aretz. It doesn't mean he bought them. It means he's the one who fashioned them, who created them. He's his possession. Third, Avraham kinyan echad. Avraham Avinu was a kinyan. Israel kinyan echad. The Jewish people are a kinyan. And finally, Beit HaMikdash kinyan echad. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Okay, very nice. Pirkei Avot, nice Mishnah. But listen to this insight that I came across from the Rav Radomsk. You'll see his name quoted. I didn't do enough research to get all the lowdown on his history, but I've seen him quoted many times. And he says like this: this isn't just stam that the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot is telling us about these kinyanim. He's telling us that this is really different avenues with which people can come closer to Hashem. How do we see this? He said that people also are understood by Hashem. People understand Hashem differently. They have different capabilities. Not everyone serves Hashem the same way, nor should they. Not everyone connects to Hashem in the same way, should they. Not everyone's a Talmid Chacham, right? Not everyone's a big Talmid Chacham, a wise individual. So some people connect to Hashem through Torah, the first line there. That's what they connect. Others connect to Hashem by emulating Avraham Avinu. What is Avraham Avinu's characteristic? We know it's chesed. So through chesed, they may not sit and learn Torah a lot, but they do a lot of acts of chesed. That's one way they connect to God. Another is possibility. By the way, these are not exclusive. A person can have all 5 of these at the same time, very likely, too. But some people have a certain derech, a certain path in life connected to God. Others connect to Hashem through their dedication to the land of Israel. And others will either emulate or daven for or strive for Beit HaMikdash. So the Rav from Rav Domsk is really telling us that it's when it says in the pasuk, not pasuk, but it says in the Tefila. Go back to this. Malah haaretz ki yanecha, it has a dual meaning. On the one hand, it's telling us that the earth is filled with the creations of Hashem and with things that God has are His possessions. In addition to that, from the other perspective, is that there are other ways that we are koneh, that we acquire the relationship with Hashem, all the 5 different ways at least, and each person in his own way. Okay, so now we have a very, what I would think is somewhat strange. We started off this paragraph by talking up here in the beginning. Hashem brings the light into the world. Every day He renews Maseh Bereshit, the creation. How great are His works? World's filled with His possessions and his creations. He's the great King. He is blessed. He is amazing. He's unbelievable from always. And then we say, Elokei Olam, God of the universe, have mercy on us. Like, what does that have to do with anything? For those that know, some of you have heard this many times over the years. This is what we call a roses are red question. Roses are red, violets are blue. I like peanut butter. Can you swim? In other words, it doesn't seem to flow because we're giving praise to Hashem about His work and His earth and His possessions and the light and Maasev Reshit. And all of a sudden we start saying to Hashem, have mercy on us. So if you want to understand it in a very simplistic way, you can say that in spite of Hashem being the being that has all this, we want to subjugate ourselves to Hashem, that we should be humbled by this and all. We don't always do the right thing. Have mercy on us. So that's definitely one way that we can look at this. There's another possibility. If we take a look at Breshit, very, very beginning of the Torah, a couple of psukim in. A lot of people don't think about this because we're so often on autopilot, we don't really think. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And at the end of the next pasuk, or same pasuk, the one after. It was evening, it was morning one day. But there's a problem with that. I tried to put a little on there. I don't know if that worked. Vayomer Elokim. This is now on the day number 4. Vayomer Elokim, and God said, Yehi me'orot birki hashamayim. Let there be luminaries in the heavens. L'havdil bein hayom u'bein halayla, to distinguish between day and night. Vayulo totu l'moadim li'amim mishanim. They should function. The sun and the moon should function in such a way that they act as signs for holidays and days and years. Meaning that until day number 4, there is no sun and moon. So for day 1, day 2, day 3, there's no sun and moon. So Vayomer Elokim hi or, and it says Vayi'erev vayiboker, it was morning and it was evening, day 1, day 2, day 3. What distinguished it as day and night if there's no sun and no moon? So you'll notice this word here, me'orot. If you know little Ivrit, you'll know we talked about this once before when we were talking a little introduction about words, that the word me'orot here is spelled what's called chaser. What does it mean, chaser? It's missing a vav. Mem aleph, then there's a dot on top of the aleph here for the O sound, but it should be spelled mem aleph vav resh taf, me'orot, and actually with another vav after it. And spelled chaser. So first we're going to answer the question about what was really the light for the first 3 days, and then we're going to understand this, and we're going to come back to the bracha. When God created the earth, the heavens and the earth, and it says He created light. It's not the light that you and I see. It's not the sunlight. Obviously not, because He doesn't create the sun until day number 4. So what is it? In English, it's called the supernal light, and in Hebrew, it's called the Or HaGanuz. Or HaGanuz literally means the hidden light. There are actually a couple svarim with that name also. The light was considered so special that Adam HaRishon could see from one end of the earth to the other, whatever that even means, a universe, whatever that means. But Hashem, after day number 3, hid away the light for tzaddikim, for the righteous, datid lavo, for the future world. Again, what does that actually mean, Tachlis? I don't want to discuss that. But what it does say is that the light that we have now, the light in the sun and the moon, if you don't remember your basic science, the moon reflects the sun's light. The moon doesn't have any of its own, is not the perfect light or not the great light that God wanted to bring into this world. It's chaser. It's missing something, indicated by the spelling of the word over here, the word me'orot, that's spelled chaser. It's missing the vavs. So what's it doing here? It's telling us we have to recognize something right at the beginning of this bracha. We're about to enter, remember, we're about to enter Shema. After we do the brachot that come after Baruch Hu, we have two brachot, and then we lead into Shema. As we enter the Shema, we also have to recognize a couple of aspects. Number one, on the one hand, I'm just re-quoting all these psukim before here, or sentences. And at the same time, we have to understand that we are like the Me'orot HaShamayim, we are also chaserim. We're also lacking. But that's the chesed of Hashem. But Hashem says, in spite of the fact that we are who we are, and we have our frailties and our human faults, and after all, that's how Hashem created us, we ask Hashem to, basically, I'm paraphrasing now, it's not what it really says, listen to us in spite of our faults, listen to us in your tremendous rachamim. We will see that the Shemona Esrei begins in a similar fashion when we get there in a couple of, whatever, I'm not going to give a time frame, whatever, down the road, near future. But this is like almost an entree. We're about to enter. Remember, you're picturing in your head, you're entering this great hall, about to enter Hashem's inner office, so to speak. You're right there, but open the doors. You can see, you peek around the curve, and you can see God's office. Again, we're talking anthropomorphically. And as you're entering there, you're contemplating this amazing Hashem and what he does and what he's done and what he will continue to do every single day, forever and ever. And we also have to say we're throwing ourselves on the mercy of Hashem as we come before him with our own imperfections, hinted to by the idea of the me'orot, the lights, the luminaries, the heavens, which are also listed as imperfect. Okay. As we continue, now there are many times in davening. So, by the way, it's true in piyutim also. For example, keladon, but in many times in tefillah and in other areas, we end up finding a section of tefillah that's written in the order of the alphabet. As we know, Ashrei it's actually a parak of Tehillim, which we talked about extensively a while back. But this is, you'll see, if you've never noticed this before, now many Sidurim actually will bold the first letters, El Baruch Gedol Deyah Echin, without even knowing what the meaning of the words are right now. You should understand that starting with the word, get it here, El, Aleph Lamed, until you get to Tamid, all this, let me try that again, all these words are in the order of the alphabet. Okay? Why? Mapitom, that all of a sudden we're talking here in the order of the alphabet. Take a look here at this next slide. There's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Tells us as follows. Moshcheni acharecha narutza. I pulled you after me. I pulled after you, and we ran. Haviani al melech chadarav. The king brought me into his chamber. Nagila v'nismecha bach. I will rejoice and be happy with you. Okay, forget all the context right now, all that goes with it. This pasuk is the source pasuk for telling us why many times we have the otiyot, or the letters of the alphabet, as an acrostic for sections of tefillah. What's Bach? Bach is kaf bet. Kaf bet is 22. There are 22 letters of the alphabet. What is special about that? At this, first I'm just on a micro level, then we'll go on a macro level. The micro level, talking just right here in this particular part of tefillah. At the moment that we are expressing our, not only our devotion to Hashem, but our acceptance of the magnificence of Hashem, which really started with Yishtabach. And if you think about it, even with Az Yashir, we're reaching a pinnacle of praise of Hashem to as if we're climbing a ladder, and we're using the letters of the alphabet to do that. So let's talk about, what does this really mean? There are many different midrashim that talk about, quote, how Hashem created the world. There's one famous one that says, "Istako beoraita ubari alma." He looked in the Torah and created the world. Okay. Now, if you want to explain that one to me, we happy to understand it. I never understood it. I understand it in theory what it's talking. It means the Torah is the blueprint for creation. Very good. But it also talks about the idea that Hashem used the 22 letters of the Aleph-Bet to create the world or to create the universe. The letters of the Aleph-Bet, now parenthetically, whether you know this or not, we talked about this back in Sefer Ezra, early in Sefer Ezra, that until the time of Ezra, the letters of the Aleph-Bet looked differently than they look to us today. Since the time of Ezra till now, they're very different. You would probably have a hard time reading most of the Aleph-Bet of the original way it was that Jews knew it. Why it was changed, go back and watch the video, or you can talk about it another time, and why Ezra changed it. But either way, whether it was the way that it was the letters of Ezra, the letters that came before, Hashem used, and they're talking in a Kabbalistic sense, the letters of the Aleph-Bet to create the world of the universe. And therefore, while we're in this paragraph that's talking about the God, the creator of the universe, Konei HaKol, well, he didn't say Konei HaKol, that's Shemon Esrei, but Malarz Kinyanecha, we talk about Hashem bringing light and recreating Ma'asev Reshit. Remember, the paragraph starts mentioning the creation. We also invoke the letters of the Aleph-Bet, because this is with which Hashem created the world. And we are Hashem's partners in creation of the world. Every single day when we do his mitzvot, we are helping to recreate the world. And therefore, it's hinted to by giving us the letters of the Aleph-Bet, helping us, so to speak, to go to greater heights in our Tefila. Which brings us to an entree into an interesting area. I'm going to tread lightly. We're going to discuss a little bit tonight about some ideas about having to do with angels and some other ideas that relate to it. But let's take a look first at this next paragraph. We give praise to God, to the name of Hashem forever. Malkeinu, our God, our King. I'm on the second line. Now in the red, Yotzer misharetim. What does that mean? It means that God creates servants. Misharet is a servant. Hashem creates servants. Vashem misharatav kulom omdim birum olam. His servants, you might think, are us, but it's not. Who's he referring to? Misharatav, his servants, kulam omdim, they all stand, birum olam, in the high heavens. Mashmi'im biyir'ah, and they sound out with fear, yachad together, bekol divrei Elokim chayim u'melech olam, in a voice, the words of the living God and the King forever. And then it goes into all these words, which we're not going to do tonight. And it's going to lead us into the Kedusha, which you're familiar with, as you say, the Kedusha that you say sitting down. But right now I want to go back to this topic of Yotzer Misharatim, because this section of Tefillah deals a lot with Misharatim, or the servants of God, i.e. Malachim. Take a look on the left side of the screen. Make it a little bigger. Amarle, this is a Gemara in Chagiga. Amarle Shmuel Lechia Barav. Shmuel said to Chia Barav, Bar Arya, Ta'ema la milta mahani mile me'alyata, Davi Amar Avuch, say something good in the name of your father. He said the following, Kol yoma v'yoma nivraim mal'achei hasharet minahar dinur. Every single day there are new angels that are created, mal'achei hasharet, as we use the words in Friday night in Shalom Aleichem, means the ministering angels of God, minahar dinur, from that river Dinur. We're going to come back to that. That's why I put a little star to remind me. Va'amre shira ubatle. And what do? They say shira to Hashem, they say praise of God, ubatle, and they're gone. Shenemar chadashim labekarim rabba emunatech. Okay? So first we have to see, the Gemara tells us, that the God creates these angels. The angels do their thing. They give shira, and then they disappear. They're gone. I know that probably many, I won't say all, many of people, when they picture angels, they picture the winged creatures that we picture in our heads from various sources. We do know that they have some kind of wing. We talk about the I don't want to get ahead of myself. We also talk about the fact that they have a regal yishara. They're standing. They don't sit. We'll talk about that. But before we talk about angels and how that fits into this section of Tefillah, I want to take a look at what is Nahar Dinur. Take a look at the next slide. Nahar Dinur, Bitargum Miluli, Nahar Shel Eish. If you want to use a direct literal translation, it means a river of fire. The angels are created from a river of fire. It says in Daniel, Daniel Metaret Chazona Chayot HaKodesh. Daniel is in Sefer Daniel, the Navi, gives us a description of a vision of Chayot HaKodesh. Now, if you remember, I just briefly mentioned, and I'll go deeper next week, Bezrat Hashem, that the Chayot are considered the highest level of angels. So in his Chazon, his vision, he tells us of the Chayot HaKodesh, the holy Chayot, the Chisei HaKavod, and the holy throne of God, Asher Alav Yashav Atik Yomi. And where is this? It says, and he quotes, this is the pasuk from Daniel. A lot of Sefer Daniel is written in Aramaic. Nahar di Nur, Nagad Unfak. The Nahar di Nur, the river of fire, Nimshach v'yotzei, is drawn and comes out. Min kadmohi, Elef alfin yisham shuna, v'rabu revavan kadmo yikumu. Here's the English. A river of fire streamed forth before him. Thousands upon thousands served him. Myriads upon myriads attended him. The court sat and the books were open. Again, without using what the context of the pasuk, let's just see what it says here. Talmud Darshu, in the Gemara, they gave the following drasha. Mehecha napti. From where did these angels come from? It says Nahar di Nur, but where does the Nahar, where does that Nahar, that river, come from? Mizeyatan shel chayot. It comes from the sweat of these chayot, of these high-level angels. Uleichan shafich, and where does it go to? Amarav Zucha bar Tovit Amarav al Rosh Rishayim beGehinom. The reason I'm mentioning this particular midrash is because of this last line. It says that originally said that the angels come, they give their bracha or their praise of God, and then they disappear. Now it's also adding another layer, that the river itself from which these angels are created, evidently on a daily basis, also serves another purpose. It also goes into the Rishayim, the Har of Eish, this river of fire, onto the heads of the Rishayim, of the evil, who are on Gehinom. Now, I am definitely not going to spend any time on the topic of Gehinom and Gan Eden and all, but just in our belief, because I do get this question not more often than you would think, what is the Jewish belief in heaven and hell? First of all, neither is a physical location. Having said that, the concept of Gan Eden, the actual original Gan Eden, is a place. It's in the Torah. It's still, according to everyone, it still exists somewhere, where it's maybe way, way below ground somewhere. Don't ask me, and I don't know. But it exists because it's a place that's mentioned in the Torah. But as far as a location for the afterlife, when a person passes away and the neshama goes somewhere, we're used to the idea, of course, of a physical location. Oh, he must be in Shamayim. We picture that, and that's fine. You're allowed to picture that. But we have to understand it's the spiritual part of us, our neshama, that ends up in a place. So neshama, which is spiritual, has to go to a spiritual place instead of a physical place after this world. And it is the two things we get out of this midrash. One is the idea that we saw before. The malachim are created. Some, not we're talking. There's some malachim that have a standing invitation, so to speak, before God. And we're going to mention them in the few minutes or in a few lines later in the kedusha of this part of the davening. And there are others that are created on a daily basis, specifically just to say, quote, just to sing praise of Hashem. Why does Hashem create them for this purpose and to leave? You have to ask God. I can't answer the question. But at the same time, we also have to add one more layer to this. Take a look. Let's just say, okay, this is giving us an entree to the top of angels, but we're going to have to wait just a little more for that, as I told you before. And then after we mention a hint to the angels and the concept of them coming together and somehow doing something biyachad, why do we care? The question should be bugging you right now. Why? Who cares what they're doing? We're here. We're part of this world, right? We're giving praise to Hashem. We're thanking Hashem. We're talking for rachamim and for mercy and everything. And now we're talking about angels. Why do we segue into that? We even say the following. We give these appellations, these titles of grandeur, the God, the great, the awesome, the holy. Some of these will appear again in Shemon Esrei. And then it says the following. It's talking still about the angels, that all of them accept upon themselves ol malchut shamayim, one from the other, and they give each other permission to sanctify their creator, i.e. God, with clear and beautiful voice or sound, language, Kidusha, we saw Kedusha, they all respond together in awe and they say, right? They go, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Before we even get there, you have to, again, we say this every day, of a weekday at least. What's it doing here? What is this doing here in our davening? We're not angels. So what is it we get from out of this? Take a look at the quote on the bottom left of the screen. I'll make it bigger. In the Gemara Brachot, at the end of davening Shemon Esrei, before you step out of Shemon Esrei, there's a paragraph of if you look in certain Sidurim, especially by the Sfaradim, and some ones that have a Kabbalistic bend to the Sidur, you will find a whole list of different potential things you could say at the end of Shemona Esrei. Where do they come from? Some are later additions, and some are right from the Gemara and Brachot. The Brachot in the Gemara and Brachot, you see what starts the first line right here. It says, Rabbi Alexandre Batar de Matzle Amar Hachi. Rabbi Alexandre, after Batav means after the Mitzale, after he davened, means Shemona Esrei, Amar Hachi. He said the following. He said this. So the Gemara over there has a whole list of Rabbi this and Rabbi that, saying this is what they would say at the end of Tefillah. And this was what he said. Ribon Olamim. Galui v'yadu lefanecha. It is obvious to you, revealed to you, and known to you. We want to do your bidding. We want to do your will. Umi ma'akev, and what prevents us from doing it? It's what's it called when you put it into the yeast in the flour in the dough, and the oppression of we are not our own boss, meaning we were subjugated to other countries. May it be your will, God, save us from their hands. The Seor Sheba Isa is the reference to the Yotzer. But allow us to serve you with a full heart. So I haven't answered the question yet. Like, where am I going with this? So what is it that is able to overcome the Yotzer Hara? What is it that we do or can do that can help us overcome the Yotzer Hara? Is this what's in red? The Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. What is Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim? It's Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. However, we're not there yet. We're saying what the angels say. The angels say this idea of, which we didn't, it's not on the screen, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And they accept upon themselves, sorry, V'chulam, go to the second line right here. V'chulam mekablim alehem. They all accept upon themselves ol malchut shamayim. So the first thing we have to learn from the angels, and we're going to see why that's so important in a minute, is the idea of kabbalat ol malchut shamayim. That we have to accept upon ourselves the ol malchut shamayim, which is the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, i.e., serving God. We will do this in a couple paragraphs when we get to the Shema. When you talk about anytime you talk about Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shema, if you ever see like an ad online or on the newspaper, it says that there's going to be a Tefillah at the Kotel for X, and part of it's going to be the Tefillah, it's Amirat Tilim, and Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shema. What does that mean? It means saying Shema Yisrael, because that's the ultimate acceptance of yoke of Hashem on us. Oh, I can't hear on the screen too, sorry. Okay. Putting these together, I'm going to read you a Gemara that is in Chulin, of all places. And it's going to now answer our question of why is it that we are mentioning at this point in Tefillah about the angels. There's a discussion that's going on in the Gemara, and it's talking about the time when Yaakov Avinu fought overnight with the angel of Esav, known as Sarol Shel Esav. And we know that he touched his leg, and from there we don't eat the Gid HaNasheh. Amar lo malach, the angel said to him, to Yaakov, sorry, Amar lo, so he said to him, Malachani, I am a malach. Umiyon shenivreti lo igi azmani lomar shira. And it's from the time I was created until now, the time has not yet come for me to say shira. Ad achshav, until now. Okay, that's what the angel said to Yaakov. This is a proof or a help for something Rav Chananel. Rav Chananel said the name of Rav. Dama Rav Chananel Amar Rav. Rav Chananel said in the name of Rav, Shalosh kitot shel malachei hasharet omrot shira b'chol yom. There are three groups of ministering angels that say praise or sing praise to God every day. Achat omeret kadosh. One group says kadosh. Achat omeret kadosh. And another group says kadosh. Achat omeret kadosh. And the third group says kadosh. Hashem tzvakot. God, the ministering God. So that's, first of all we've seen so far is the malach said to Yaakov, it's my time to say Shira. Gemara says this proves what Rav Chananel ben Rav said in the name of Rav, that every day there are kitot, there are groups of angels that say praise to Hashem. One says Kadosh, one says Kadosh, and one says Kadosh Hashem Tzvakot. That's all we said so far. Gemara asked the following question. Chavivin Yisrael ifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoter mi malachei hasharet. It says that in Israel, the Jews are more beloved to Hashem more than the ministering angels. How do we know this? She'Yisrael omrim shira b'chol sha'a. Because the Bnei Yisrael sing praise to Hashem all the time. We can open up a Tefillah, we can say Tefillah, we can say praise, anything, any time of the day or night. Malachei Sharet, and the ministering angel of God, ein omrim shira ela pam achat bayom. They only say praise to Hashem once a day. B'amrila pam achat b'Shabbat. Others' opinions say they only say praise to Hashem once a week. B'amrila pam achat b'chodesh. Others say only once in a month. B'amrila pam achat b'shana. Others say only once a year do the ministering angels say praise to Hashem. Once, others say once every 7 years. And one say once every 50 years. And others' opinion is that certain angels only could say it once ever. The Yisrael Maskrim, in addition to that, besides that, Yisrael Maskrim et Hashem achashtei tevot. Bnei Yisrael say Hashem's name after two words. Shenemar Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. It's the third word. Umalachei Hasharet en maskirim et Hashem ela achar gimel tevot. And the Malachim only say Hashem's name after three words, which is Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvakot. Ve'en Malachei Hasharet omrim shira lamala. This is the key right here. Just bold it, make it bold, whatever. You'll just believe, trust me. Ve'en Malachei Hasharet omrim shira lamala ad she'omru Yisrael lamata. What happens over here? What enables the malachim, no matter when they're doing it, if it's once a day, once a year, once a month, doesn't make a difference. There's certain malachim that every day, there's certain malachim. What is the enabler for the malachim to begin and to sing their praise to Hashem? Our singing the praise to Hashem. We are in concert, literally and figuratively, with the malachim. The malachim need us to get the ball rolling in Shemayim to sing praise to Hashem. Do you understand the absolute, unbelievable power that we as human beings have, that God gave us, that we think of malach, and it's true, malach, in other words, another meaning of malach is a messenger, that a malach is a messenger of God and sent to the world to do certain things. The most well known that we know, of course, are the three malachim that come visit Sarah and Abraham, which are at that point Sarah and Abraham. But there's another aspect to this, which is that Hashem, that the malachim of Hashem need us. Think about that. We are basar v'dam. We are flesh and blood. We're human beings. What is a malach? Malach is a spiritual being, also created by God. Malach has zero Yotzer hara. We turn to Hashem and say, look, if it weren't, we need your help. What's going to help us to overcome the Yotzer hara? this seor shebe'isa, yeast that's in the dough. We have to do this. So we start off, in a sense, by almost giving permission to the angels to give their praise to Hashem and singing to Hashem, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Now, I want to mention to you, I didn't want to put it on the screen. I forgot which country it's in. Because I saw it, but I don't remember where it was. It's in Eastern Europe. Maybe someone here remembers. The non-Jews, unfortunately, co-opted this Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And there's a reason I'm mentioning this to you. I'll tell you in a minute. And say that is the proof in the Bible, because it's mentioned in Yeshayahu, for the Chas V'Shalom, to say it, what's called the Trinity, the belief in the Trinity by the Christians. There is a sculpture, and again, I forgot which country it's in, which has Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvakot, and it has it let's just say, in an extremely inappropriate sculpture having to do with Christianity. It's horrific. It's horrific to see. That's why I didn't put it on the screen. I saw pictures. I've seen it in person. It's terrible. Why am I mentioning this? One of the things that we've spoken about in the past is the concept of what is Kedusha. Talked about it in Tefila class, taught Mesilat Yesharim, we talked about it in Navi. We taught basically almost every class I've ever taught, almost every, in some point, the topic of Kedusha comes up. We have to understand that our speech has to it an aspect of Kedusha. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. Everything we have can be used for good, it could be used for bad. It's up to us. It's our choice. Unfortunately, there are outside forces that sometimes have taken our Kedusha and have bastardized it and changed it and used it for their own purposes. And that's the antithesis of Kedusha. What is Kedusha? And it's its own long discussion about separation and holiness and elevation. And the way that Tanya, in one sentence in Tanya, we could say that the Alter Rebbe has explained it, is everything that brings us closer to Hashem is Kedusha. Everything else is not Kedusha. It's called Sitra, the other side. All of this is coming up prior to Shema. If we jumped straight into Shema without these brachot beforehand, and we have a similar but a shorter version in brachot of Shema at night, in the daytime it's much longer. If we don't really think about what we're saying in here, and we're like so focused on getting to Shema and saying it with right kavanah and intention, we're kind of missing part of the story here. Part of the story is we're supposed to motivate ourselves. We're supposed to look at these words and ideas that we've talked about so far, whether it's Malach Inyanecha, Maru Ba'asech Hashem, and all these, plus Rachamecha Rabim, which we talked about tonight, the merciful Hashem asking for mercy, the idea of the recreation on a daily basis of you may have Bereshit, the days of creation, but also we're approaching Hashem on two levels. Number one, we're approaching Hashem by enabling and kickstarting the Malachim to begin their day of praise of Hashem. And then conversely, we're saying, just like the Malachim do it in the heavens, because we just gave them the right to do it, so too now we're going to do it. And what's the doing it? Kabbalat Malchut Shemayim. Purpose? To counteract counteract the yeast in the flour, in the dough rather, the Yotzer Hara. You will find in davening, this is true. I've asked people this is true for me. I know it's true for a lot of people. The more important, now there are different parts of tefillah more important than less important. We've already discussed this. Obviously, the most important part of tefillah bigadol is Shemona Esrei, Shema. But the more important something is, the chances of your mind wandering at some point is that much greater. And we will talk about skills of how to avoid that. There are some ways that you can bypass that and try to conquer it. But right now, just be aware. And so one of the other things we're doing here at this point before Shema is trying to build up this picture in our head of the heavens. I mean, our people you can actually picture in your mind However, you want to picture, quote, Shamayim, the heavens, and all these ministering angels and these spiritual forces all together singing Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And what does it mean, Lu'umatam? What does it mean they ask for permission from each other? If you want to know that, you have to restart Tanya class with me at some point when we do that again, Bezrat Hashem, because it will deal with it in a couple more chapters from where we left off. It will deal with that whole topic. And if you want to know, I can always point you to the right direction of that. But that's what's happening here prior to Shema. We're going to just do a little bit next week, Bezrat Hashem. We'll do a little bit more of this paragraph, get into the next bigger paragraph before Shema, and then into Shema itself. That's the plan, Bezrat Hashem. Tov, I didn't want to go any further tonight because the next part's going to take me a while. So I wish you all a Shavua Tov, B'sorot Tovot, and have a good evening, everybody.